had another question as well, which is from Eric in Minnesota. And I'll just read the question. In the case of a very distraught person who is extremely depressed and may be crying and agitated, have you found preferred methods of getting them out of that state along the lines of a crisis intervention scenario? I guess I know there's no perfect words or phrases in that situation, but some approaches or best practices would be appreciated. When someone is that depressed, they aren't always that receptive at being helped or open to suggestion in order to feel better. Thanks. So that's a really excellent question. And in my experience, someone who is in that kind of crisis, emotional crisis state, if you like, isn't the person who's come along under their own volition for therapy. Either someone else has brought them in, or you're in some sort of other capacity. Maybe you're a social worker who's gone into their house to help them, or they haven't necessarily sought help themselves. If they're that sort of labile or that that sort of emotional intensity at the time that you're actually seeing them. And I think it comes down to a question of partly rapport. You think about calming somebody down. If you think about leading somebody's emotional state, which is what you do if you calm somebody down, you're leading their emotional state. If you make someone laugh, you lead their emotional state. If you make someone more depressed, you lead their emotional. So if we think, well, that's essentially what we need to do in order to help somebody feel better in the moment, so to speak. It's not, we're not curing their depression in one bound, but we're helping them feel better in the moment. And the first thing that we need to do, I think, is come alongside them. So basic sort of rapport building kind of principles apply here, I think. So if someone is extremely anxious or angry, and we go in and we're very calm, and relaxed and so forth, what we're doing is essentially saying, I am completely unlike you. I am completely different to you. I'm completely relaxed and you're completely, angry. Or what it's like if you're very, very angry and someone's telling you to calm down, and it makes you more angry, because they are, it's like they become another species for that moment in time. But if we can start off ourselves not too relaxed, a little bit tense in our voice, our voice cadence matching theirs, the amount of words we speak a minute sort of matching theirs, not looking too relaxed ourselves, and not as necessarily as extreme as they are, then we are subconsciously more likely to be able to connect with them, so that bit by bit we can start to lead their experience. And this can be, subliminal, below conscious awareness almost. So we're not going in and saying calm down to somebody, but if we we weight our language to using more calming words in conversation, which isn't even necessarily to do with that person, then we're sending a message to the part of them which won't resist so much that things can calm down. A famous example of this is Milton Erickson talking to a man who was extremely adverse to having any kind of therapeutic input, who was in extreme pain from cancer. And the man loved gardening, and Erickson talks to him about gardening, and he talks about tomatoes. The man's favorite thing to grow was tomatoes, as it happened. And Erickson was talking to him about the comfort that tomatoes can feel as they relax in the soil, and the man was focused because Erickson was talking in such a strange way, but also he was talking about something that interested him. But also the subliminal part of the message was about calming and relaxed and rested and feeling better and so forth. Of course, the part of the man that could respond to that started to, but that wasn't the conscious part of him. So being able to communicate to the person's unconscious mind as well as their conscious mind is a huge boon for any therapist to do. And it's not necessarily a question of asking someone to close their eyes and go into hypnosis or something like that. It can be done conversationally, and also without the therapist even really being aware that they're doing it. If they're very skilled in it, they tend to do it unconsciously themselves. I remember working with a young guy of about 17 or 18. And his mother brought him in for therapy, and he had quite a few problems. It was something very likable about him. And his mother said that he got incredibly enraged and upset every time someone mentioned his father. And his father had told him a couple of years before that he'd never wanted to see him again. Just, outright, he said to the young lad when he was about 15, I don't want you in my life anymore. I don't want to ever see you again. I don't want to have anything to do with you. He said this in front of the mother, and nothing the son had done had precipitated that. Not that it perhaps should do anyway, whatever he'd done, but he hadn't done anything to precipitate that. Every time the father was mentioned, the boy actually went into a sort of emotional crisis. And he started to do that as his mother was telling him what the problem was. The boy was sitting there, the young man was sitting there, and his mother was sitting there. And he started hyperventilating and crying and sort of wailing and this kind of thing. And first thing I did was speed up my language, okay, because his heartbeat was going faster. So I wanted to have something of me matching the speed at which he was experiencing his reality at that present moment. So I revved up my rate of speech, okay, to match his experience, and then I very gradually started to slow it down, okay, minimally. So we were matching some part of our reality. Then I started to lead after a while and found that his breathing followed, and he started to breathe a bit more slowly. Then I got him to focus outside on something on the wall in my room. So he's focusing outside of himself, literally. So this is something else I might do. I might just say, just look there, just focus on that. Okay. Now I know that it's very difficult, et cetera. Then I began to breathe in time with him, and I began to slow my breathing down, and I noticed his breathing further sort of slowed down. And I was also using thinking words. Okay, it's been found that the type of words that you use, not surprisingly, appeal to different parts of the brain. So if you use very emotive words, then emotional centers of a person's brain sort of become more activated. So if you ask someone how they feel, if you ask them about the misery they've been feeling, or whether they're happy or sad, you're really you're not just appealing to the emotional brain, but in some sense you're encouraging its activation, so to speak. If you start using think words when someone is very emotional, what you can do is start to dilute the emotional effect. So asking what he thinks about this, and if he was to see the situation from the outside, how would he analyze it? And using words like analyze, weigh up, think. Okay, when we think about this, thinking about that, but we look at it from outside, and et cetera. And very, very quickly he calmed down. His mother said that never happened before. He'd never started to have this sort of feeling and have it kind of go away like that. For him that was a powerful experience. So building rapport with somebody, learning unconscious communication so you can connect with them and then start to lead them on an emotional level is a very powerful thing to do.